The corridor was silent except for the hum of the vending machine and the clink of ice settling in my coffee cup. I wasn't eavesdropping, not exactly. I was walking back from the printer when I paused phone and hand outside conference room. I swear. It looked like she got dressed in the dark, Kristen said. Her voice was bright, sharp, bouncing off glass, laughter, not loud, just enough. Jeremy chuckled. It's vintage, right? Oh, honey, no, that dress is antique and not in the good way. More like found in a dead woman's attic chic. Another laugh, another stab. I turned slightly. Just enough to see her, Kristen, perched confidently at the head of the table, legs crossed, tapping her pen against her teeth like she was delivering a stand-up set at my expense. She probably thinks it's artistic, she went on. You know, like I'm too deep for Zara. Jeremy didn't defend me, just smirked, eyes flicking toward the window. I stepped back before he could see me. The cup in my hand suddenly felt heavy. I stared at the screen of my phone, pretending to scroll. Even as their words bled into each other behind the glass, I didn't hear the rest. I didn't need to. The damage was already measured. I walked away calmly. Back at my desk, I sat down, slid the cup aside, and opened the quarterly forecast. Kristen's laugh still echoed in the corners of my mind. But my face was still, my breath even. Hey, you? Good? Kristen appeared 20 minutes later, leaning on the edge of my cubicle wall like nothing had happened. You look super focused. I looked up slowly. Numbers don't lie. She blinked. Okay, then. Keep slaying. Spreadsheet queen. The smile she gave me was performative. Flat, she strutted off in 4-inch heels that clicked like a metronome. Hey, Jeremy said as he passed a few minutes later. He didn't stop, just nodded. Double quotes Jeremy. That was all I gave him. I didn't cry. Not because it didn't hurt, of course it did. But I learned a long time ago, in a different room with a different kind of betrayal, that emotions are meant to be read after they've been edited. Kristen's laugh had reminded me of high school love locker rooms and lip gloss girls who needed to wound to feel tall. But this was a consulting firm, not gym class. And I wasn't 16 anymore. I was 34, strategic planner, Ivy League grad. No HR violations. No raised voice, ever. Don't take it personal. Sarah whispered when I walked into the elevator with her at 5. Take what? Her glance was quick. She jokes like that about everyone. You're not special. But I was, because she hadn't said that about Sarah, or Melissa, or anyone else who wore what the fashion blog gods approved. Only me. The next morning, Kristen was already in the break room when I arrived. She was laughing with Rob from marketing, flipping her hair with one hand while pouring oat milk with the other. That's the secret, she said. Never show up with creases. She saw me as she said it. Let the smile linger just a second longer. Morning, I said, stepping past her to the cabinet. I took the plain mug, the one with the small chip at the rim. Hey, Kristen replied. Oh, by the way, did you ever get the name of that stylist I mentioned last week? She's really good with updates. No. Thanks, I said calmly. I don't outsource taste, too. She laughed too. Rob cleared his throat and left. Kristen leaned in a little. You're not mad, are you? Why would I be? Some people, they misinterpret sarcasm. I mean, I joke all the time. And some people listen. That froze her for half a second. I'm just saying, I added, stirring my coffee. It's easy to confuse cruelty with wit when your audience doesn't talk back. Kristen's smile faltered, then returned. Brittle. Wow, okay. I'm heading to the finance sink. Don't be late, Trent hates it. I left her there, still smiling, but now holding her coffee like a shield. By noon, the entire floor buzzed with the usual Thursday static meetings, late lunches, passive-aggressive Slack threads. But I was silent, watching. At 3:42, I passed Jeremy near the elevators. He slowed. Look, you don't have to explain. I'm not your responsibility. Still, that was not cool. She just said what you laughed at. He flinched. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? A beat passed. I don't know. I do. I stepped onto the elevator, door sliding shut between us. The stainless steel reflected a version of me I didn't quite recognize but liked, not angry, not hurt, just done pretending. Kristen's voice didn't echo anymore. It whispered, and I had already started listening. Asterisk. The dress hung on the back of my bedroom door, still carrying the faint scent of lavender from its garment bag. My mother's dress. Silk, hand-stitched seams, ivory with a subtle dove gray pattern that shifted with the light. I'd tailored it to my shape, taken it in at the waist, added structure to the shoulders. It used to make me feel like I'd stepped into her skin. Now it felt like a costume. You're wearing that, Eric had said once, pulling his tie loose in the hallway. It's a little old lady-ish, don't you think? No, I replied, steady. He smirked. You just don't usually go for the vintage martyr vibe. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. He'd already walked into the bathroom, humming. Now, years later, I heard Kristen's voice echoing in the same register. I picked up the dress by its hanger and carried it to the bed, sat beside it. You love that dress, I murmured, running my thumb along the hem. I watched you stand on that stage in it. You weren't nervous. You weren't even surprised. I could still picture her shoulders straight, chin slightly lifted. A woman who never apologized for brilliance. My mother hadn't smiled often. But when she did, it was earned, intentional. You told them, I whispered, that elegance was a kind of architecture. That what we wear should hold us up. The phone buzzed beside me. Kristen. In the group chat, Kay. Love today's team looks, some more than others, heart emojis. Laughing faces, a thumbs up from Jeremy. I locked the phone, set it down. I'm not going to cry, I said aloud. But I stood and crossed to the mirror. Holding the dress to my front, too deep for Zara, I said, mimicking her tone, too sharp for you. I replied to myself. I turned, studying the way the fabric curved. At the waist, the fall of a skirt, it still held shape, still had structure. Mom would have narrowed her eyes and said, a building doesn't crumble because someone mocks the blueprint. I pulled the dress on over my head, smoothed the sides, stepped back. The hem fell just below the knee, same as it had on her. The neckline framed the collarbones with quiet intention. I remembered the photograph, the one on the fireplace mantel, until the day she died. Her hand gripping the award, her eyes half laughing at something off camera. You stood in this, I said. You built a legacy in it. I walked back to the bed, sat again, looked at my reflection in the mirror across the room. The humiliation hadn't come from the dress. It had come from letting their opinions measure my worth. Eric's voice returned to my mind. It's just a dress, don't be so dramatic. Kristen's voice, found in a dead woman's attic, and my own, quiet but solid. I altered it. I didn't erase her. The phone buzzed again. Kay, drinks tomorrow night? I'll even let you borrow something chic. I replied, me. I'm good with what I have. Always have been. No emojis. No explanation. I turned the phone over, stood and walked back to the mirror. I'm not hiding you again, I said, looking at my mother's reflection behind mine. I didn't feel like a woman humiliated. I felt like a woman narrowed down to her edge. The dress would stay out. Kristen walked into the office at 8:47, latte in one hand, ego in the other. Sorry I'm late. She said to no one in particular. Train stalled again. She wasn't sorry. And she wasn't late, not technically. But she said it with just enough volume to sound important. Like someone whose time was measured differently than ours. She passed my desk. Morning, she said, pausing half a beat. I looked up. Morning, that was all. Her smile flickered. Love the hair today. I didn't answer. I went back to my screen. At 9:10, she was in conference room A with Trent and Jeremy. We can simplify the implementation steps, she said. Clients hate being buried in jargon. Trent nodded, flipping through the deck. You built this one, mostly. Kristen tilted her head. I cleaned up the first draft. Jeremy kept quiet. I blinked twice. My hand stayed still on the keyboard. 11:43 a.m. She hovered over Monica's desk. We're hitting Q3 hard, Kristen said. I just need someone to clean up the QA data logs. No time. Monica raised an eyebrow. You're supposed to sign off on those. I can't do everything, babe. I'm a little swamped. I watched from my seat. 10 feet away. Kristen never noticed. By 2 o'clock. I had a pattern. Kristen never assigned blame outright. She implied, suggested, delegated. INVISIBLY. At 2:15. I walked past Jeremy's desk. She wants me to rewrite the Jakarta projections. He muttered to himself. I paused. Wasn't that her client? He looked up. Technically, yeah. Why? Are you doing it? He hesitated. She said I was closer to the numbers. She's not. He didn't answer. I walked away. 3:30. Break room. She was laughing with 2 interns, Nolan and Ava. Look, you can kill yourself triple-checking everything, or you can just look confident. That's what they remember. Ava tilted her head. Isn't that risky? Confidence isn't risky, Kristen said. Uncertainty is. I poured water into my glass. She noticed me but didn't speak. You have to know what matters, she added, her voice higher now. Most details don't. I turned, walked out for 05. She tapped on my cubicle wall. Got a sec. I looked up. Sure. She stepped in. Like she owned the floor. Okay, so small favor. I have this crossed out client summary that's due tomorrow. If you're light, could you give it a once-over? I have a deliverable for the audit committee. Right. But this is quick, just a format pass. I opened the file. Did you run the formulas? They're there, I mean, mostly. Which? Tab? She blinked. Tab 3. Or 2, I think 2. I clicked. The cells were blank. Kristen, okay. I was going to finish it tonight. But if you could just, I can't call an empty doc, just the structure, then, not the content. I closed the file. Maybe tomorrow. She paused. Okay, you good? I'm great. She waited another second. Then walked off. 5:12. Jeremy hovered as I packed up. You don't think she's overextending? I zipped my bag. She's good at appearances. You think Trent doesn't see it? I think Trent sees what he's shown. Jeremy looked toward her desk. Kristen was laughing at something on her phone. She told him. She cleaned up my draft, I said. His mouth tightened. She didn't, I know. He looked at me. You're not going to say anything, not yet, at home. I spread out the documents. Kristen's Jakarta timeline was off by 10 days. Her crossed-app summaries had duplicated metrics. She quoted a December number from a March report. Sloppy, I printed screenshots, highlighted inconsistencies, no assumptions, only facts. The more I gathered, the less angry I felt. The burn was clean now. Focused. She hadn't expected me to listen. But I had, and I'd started building. I waited until after 6. When the floor thinned out and Kristen's heels stopped clicking, the shared drive opened without resistance. Kristen hadn't changed the naming convention she thought speed camouflaged. Sloppiness. She was half right. Client 114_budget rev 3_final, I muttered. Never trust a file with 3 finals. I opened at line 32. Revenue inflated by 9%. Line 44. Q3 totals repeated from Q2. Her note said, data pulled directly from client dashboard. It wasn't. The next morning, I caught Trent outside the elevator. Morning, he said, juggling a phone and a protein shake. Quick question about client alignment, I said, matching his stride. Kristen's working on Dominion's new growth forecast, right? Yup. Why? I thought Dominion fell under the Asia vertical. It does. I'm still listed as lead planner for Q1 strategy on the books. He stopped. That shouldn't overlap. Kristen's supposed to be doing support only. That's not what her reports say. He frowned. Email me what you have. I'll take a look. I didn't email. Not yet. Instead, I printed, quietly in batches. 4 sets of quarterly reports, mine, hers, and the originals from the client portal side by side. Discrepancies formed like bruises. Line 12, client growth estimated at 17%. Kristen's file, 24%. Line 19, client feedback logged March 2nd. Kristen's version, awaiting client response. Can I help you? Monica looked up from her desk. Surprised. I stepped in and closed the door. This is informal. For now. She gestured to the chair. I'm listening. I have reason to believe Kristen has altered shared deliverables. Her eyebrows lifted. That's serious. I'm not making an accusation. I'm showing a pattern. Do you have proof? I'm building it. She studied me and your role in this. She altered documents tied to a client under my name. She's passing off your work. She's rewriting it. Poorly. Monica exhaled. Do you want to file a complaint? Not yet? I want a document. She nodded. We'll keep this off record until you're ready. I stood. I will be. 3 days later. I saw her edit live. Kristen in the break room, AirPods in, editing a shared sheet on her laptop. I opened the doc from my desktop. Line 41, pending Q to variance reconciliation. She typed, variance reconciled, see attached. There was no attachment. I screenshotted the moment. Timestamp, version history, archived. Friday, for 0 p.m. She stopped at my desk. Hey, just checking we're aligned on Dominion, right? I was under the impression you were supporting, right? But Trent asked me to own the forecast updates. Probably forgot to loop you in. Interesting. Because he confirmed I'm still lead planner. Her eyes flickered. Maybe he's splitting ownership. I didn't smile. That would be an unusual structure. Well, we're all on the same team, right? Not always. She blinked. Excuse me, I mean, not every project is collaborative. Some are audit sensitive. Kristen tilted her head. Is something going on? Just data hygiene. Nothing personal. She didn't speak for a moment. Then she smiled. Got it. Well, I'll make sure you're looped in next time. I looked at the screen. I already am. She walked away. I opened the file again and watched her cursor disappear. The email came through at 6:14 p.m. Subject, Strategic Innovation Award -2025 recipient notification. He didn't click it right away. I just stared at the subject line like it might change when I finally opened it. The words were plain, formal, congratulatory. I read them 3 times. Then I stood and walked to the closet. The dress was still there, same hanger, same soft fold of the hem from where I brushed it straight 2 weeks ago, and hadn't touched it since. I unzipped the bag and ran my hand along the silk. Eric had called it deliberately plain. You're really going with that? He'd asked, half laughing. You could wear something newer. I'd said, this has history. So does my gym towel. He hadn't meant it cruelly, but he always said things like that, just enough to chip. I slipped the dress on. It slid over my skin like memory. The mirror didn't lie. I told you. My mother had said the first time I tried it on after the alterations, it's built to outlast trends. You said it was uncomfortable. That's what makes it real. You won your first award in this, I whispered now, adjusting the sleeve. I'm going to accept mine in it. I called Sarah. Wow, you really won it. Apparently, they picked well. I paused, they picked quietly. What do you mean, no big meeting? No lead up, just the email. That's how they do it now, less fuss. I don't think Kristen's going to like it, Kristen's allergic to not being the center of attention. I smiled, I've noticed. Are you going to say anything to her not before the event? I beat. Are you wearing anything special? Yes, good, I tried the heels next. Same pair I'd worn to my interview 5 years ago, understated. Black, worn down just enough to move quietly. My mother had always said. The point isn't to be noticed. It's to be remembered after you've left. The next morning, Kristen cornered me by the printer. Hey, she said, all teeth. Did you get that award email? I did, her smile tightened. Guess they're keeping it under wraps. This year? Guess so. She hesitated. Weird choice, honestly, no offense. But you're not exactly flashy. I didn't know it was a fashion competition. Well, she tilted her head. You might surprise them. I plan to. Her face flickered. What are you wearing? A legacy. She blinked. Sorry. Something that means something, you'll see. I returned to my desk and opened the speech draft. Not too long, not too formal, just enough. I stared at the final line. Some things are beautiful because they last. I deleted it. Typed, some things are beautiful because they survive, and saved. Monica closed the door behind me and gestured to the chair across from hers. All right, she said. You've got the room. I laid the folder on her desk, slim, crisp, no excess. What am I looking at? She asked. 3 months of project overlap between Kristen's deliverables and mine. From misrepresented client reports to falsified approvals, she flipped open the first page. These are screenshots, version histories, time-stamped edits, client correspondence cross-checked with our internal files. Monica's fingers stilled on the printout. This is organized. I needed to be sure. Of what? That it wasn't personal. She looked up. Is it? No. She kept reading. Quiet. Thorough. I let her absorb it. Dominion projections, she said. Tapping the page. Kristen sent this to Trent last week. She pulled from Q2 and called it Q4. This says reconciled. It wasn't. Monica leaned back. You've been sitting on this. Verifying. I don't bring accusations without proof. Her mouth tightened. How long has this been happening? Since late February. First small inconsistencies, then file control, then ownership claims. And you're the original author of these. Yes, the metadata confirms it. She changed the numbers. She changed the narrative. Monica closed the folder. Do you want to file a formal complaint? She asked. I want it investigated. I'll need to bring this to Trent. I expected that. Do you want your name attached? I'm not hiding. She steadied me. You're calm. I waited until I had enough. Most people come in with smoke and noise. You brought a scalpel. I'm not here to make a scene. I'm here to protect the integrity of the work. Monica nodded slowly. All right, I'll talk to Trent. Tonight, by morning, there was a meeting on Trent's calendar marked private, HR. At 10:06, he stepped into my office. Got a minute? I nodded. He shut the door. I reviewed the materials, he said, quietly, carefully, and they're solid. I waited. She's been cutting corners, masking it well. But this, he tapped the folder. This is clean, methodical exposure. I wasn't sure if it was enough. It is. You've made it very hard for her to explain her way out. I wasn't looking for vengeance. Good, because now it's about process. He held the folder a moment longer. Appreciate how you handled this, he said. I knew you'd take it seriously. He nodded. We'll proceed carefully. But firmly, as he left, he added, You've got backbone. I smiled. I know. The heels clicked once. Then again, echoing sharp and sure along the tile corridor. Need anything? The event assistant asked, walking backward as she led me toward the side doors. No, I said. Just space. She smiled, stepped aside. The hallway was mine again. The lights overhead hummed. Distant applause rolled from the main room like a tide hitting glass. I reached the edge of the corridor and stopped. The dress didn't need adjusting. Wow, Sarah whispered, stepping up beside me. You actually wore it. I told you I would. She looked me over. It's perfect. It's mine. She hesitated. You okay? I'm steady. You're about to step on stage in front of 200 people. I'm not performing. Her lips lifted. You kind of are. I looked toward the curtain. I don't need to act like anything. A pause. She's not here, Sarah said. Kristen, she nodded. Got pulled by HR 20 minutes ago. I didn't react. She looked surprised. She always does when reality contradicts her version. Sarah touched my arm. You're not going to mention her, are you? No. You could. I won't. A moment passed. The stage manager waved once to fingers lifted, two. Minutes, Sarah said. I exhaled. I'll go alone, you sure? Yes. She nodded and disappeared behind the curtain. The corridor was quiet again. I turned, catching my reflection in the fire safety glass, slightly warped, but enough. My mother had worn this dress with her shoulders back and her hands still. She hadn't smiled until they said her name. I placed one hand over my abdomen. Not nerves, just breath. The assistant returned. They're ready for you. I nodded. Walked down center. Stop at the 3rd floor, Mark. Mick will be handed off. I remember. She opened the door. Congratulations. I stepped forward. The lights hit me. Warm and clean. The applause didn't matter. The stage didn't matter. The corridor behind me was what I'd earned, and I walked away from it. Deliberately, silently. Hold out. The applause started before I reached the stairs. It was polite at first, habitual, reflexive, then it swelled as they saw what I was wearing. My mother's dress carried its own rhythm. It didn't shimmer. It didn't cling. It held. Please welcome this year's Strategic Innovation Award recipient. The MC's voice rose over the mic, a woman whose foresight, precision, and quiet brilliance have reshaped the very core of how we lead. I walked into the light. I didn't look at the crowd, not yet. I looked straight ahead. The applause softened as I reached the podium. I took the mic from his outstretched hand and nodded. Thank you. I waited a second longer. When I joined this company, I began. I didn't plan on recognition. I planned on results, light laughter, controlled. I believe strategy isn't about visibility. It's about impact, influence that holds long after noise fades. Now I looked out. Faces lifted toward me, colleagues, department heads, juniors, executives. Kristen's seat in the 2nd row was empty. I've had the privilege of working with people who care more about excellence than ego. I don't take that lightly. This award is not mine alone. It belongs to the teams who checked every line, questioned assumptions, and said, we can do better. I paused. I could feel Kristen's absence, not loud, not obvious, but present, like a thread pulled from the edge of a dress. We lead best when we don't need to remind people we're in the room. We lead best when we listen. Applause again, softer now, more pointed. I nodded once, then stepped back from the mic. Backstage, Sarah was waiting. You killed that, she whispered. They were holding their breath. Was it too much? No. It was exact. I looked past her toward the dressing area. She's not here. Sarah shook her head. Monica pulled her before the ceremony. HR interview. Was it quiet as it could be? She didn't go easily. Of course not. She asked if you reported her. I didn't. Sarah tilted her head. But you made sure someone could. I didn't answer. Later, at the reception, Trent found me near the far table. You always this composed? He asked, handing me a water. Only when necessary. I wanted you to know we've suspended Kristen pending full audit. Monica briefed the board. I hadn't asked for that, I know. But truth has momentum. I took a sip. What's the fallout? Minimal. She didn't build enough to collapse anything. But she shook trust. Trust rebuilds slower than data. Trent nodded. You handled this with restraint. Restraint is underrated. She said you sabotaged her. I didn't touch her files. I only showed mine. A pause. I'm glad I came to light. He said. I didn't enjoy it. But it mattered. I met his gaze. It did. I stepped outside as the music picked up. Cool air. Dim streetlights. My reflection caught in the glass of the conference center doors. The dress held. It always had. The apartment was quiet when I got home. I left the lights off. I took off the dress slowly, folded it over the arm of the chair instead of hanging it. My heels stayed by the door. Laptop open. Inbox glowing. I clicked compose, to Kristen.Parr@clearequity.com. Subject, Kristen, you once said appearances were everything, but substance endures. You mistook my quiet for weakness. It wasn't. It was the courtesy you no longer deserved. Cruelty is expensive. I read it twice. No adjectives, no threats, just the shape of the truth. Then I hit delete. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed out. Sarah, she's gone, HR confirmed. No return date, probably won't be one. I typed thank you for telling me. She replied once more. You handled it with grace. She'll remember that longer than any title. I didn't answer. The night air pulled at the curtains. I stepped onto the balcony barefoot, the floor cold under my feet. Across the street, someone played piano in the window of their apartment. Just scales, imperfect, uneven. I stood still, arms crossed. Sometimes silence is a gift, sometimes it's a verdict. Tonight, it was enough. The email went out Monday morning at 8:06. From People Operations. Subject, Team Transition, Kristen. Parr wished Kristen the best as she pursues new opportunities outside of Clear Equity. No farewell message from her, no invitation to drinks. Just a clean exit line, the kind used when there's more story than they want to tell. I read it once, then closed it. Did you know? Sarah asked, sliding into the seat beside mine during the leadership sync. She was never going to recover. Credibility, I said. Still. Feels sudden. It was overdue. Sarah looked over at me. I hope they didn't ask you to help draft that email. They wouldn't dare. She smiled. She's gone. She's gone. I got home that night and took the dress from the armchair, carried it to the closet, slid it into its place without hesitation. It no longer held weight. It held origin. Tuesday afternoon, Trent stepped into my office. Got a minute? I nodded. He closed the door behind him. I want you to consider something. All right. We've had internal movement. One of our liaisons with global strategy is relocating to Singapore. I waited. I'd like to put your name forward for the opening. I blinked. That's a step up. It's two. I thought that would go to Jordan. Jordan's smart. You're surgical. A beat. You've earned it. He said. That night I opened the application form, typed in the details, reviewed my CV, uploaded the file. The cursor blinked over the final field, motivation for applying. I wrote, I believe in precision, long games and quiet shifts that hold weight. Submitted. Wednesday. I passed Jeremy in the hall. He slowed. So, she's really gone, officially, he exhaled. Never thought it would happen like that. Then you weren't paying attention. He gave a half laugh. Did you mean to end her? I meant to defend the work. Jeremy paused. She told me once she'd outlast everyone. She didn't even outlast Q2. He nodded. You doing okay? I'm doing better. Later, in the break room, Ava was pouring tea. You're different this week, she said. How so? You seem lighter, like you stopped carrying something. I stirred my coffee. Maybe I did. She hesitated. Is it true what they said? That you found the inconsistencies? I didn't find them, I said. She left them. I just refused to ignore them. Good, she smiled. Small and real. You made the place better. Friday, I received the calendar. Hold. Subject, strategic leadership onboarding. Apache stared at it for a moment, then opened a new browser tab. Typed, best suit styles for humid climates. Clicked through linen blazers, breathable blends, stopped. On a slate blue set with sharp shoulders. I didn't check the price, just saved it to cart. First day. First step. First fabric. I think about the thread sometimes. Then. Almost invisible, the one Kristen pulled with a careless hand. A comment. A laugh. One thread, enough to unravel something quiet inside me. Not something weak, just dormant. She didn't know what she was tugging at. I didn't either. Not then. Was it worth it? Sarah asked as we walked through the lobby of the new building. 2 weeks into my new role. Define it, the whole thing. The silence, the precision, letting her hang herself with your evidence. I shrugged. I didn't tie the rope. You didn't cut it either. She did that. Sarah glanced at me. You could have torn her down publicly. I didn't need to. Collapse doesn't need narration. On the 3rd floor, my new assistant, Kaya, was waiting with a tablet. Morning, she said. Your one-on-one with Global is moved to 11:30. And APAC compliance approved the updates. Thanks. She walked with me into the office. Also, the press team wants a quote for the internal spotlight next week. About your transition. I nodded. Give me a draft. Should it be personal or professional? Both. 1 sentence, to max. Kaya smiled, understated. Always. Later, I stood by the window overlooking the harbor. The light touched the water like memory. Eric used to say I was too reserved, too composed. You don't light up a room, he said once. No. I replied, I build the room. He didn't stay long after that. Kristen said nothing so direct. She did her damage in nudges. Tone? Timing? Laughs aimed like darts wrapped in lace. But their messages weren't so different, and now they were both gone. Your office is very you. Monica said during her check-in call. Simple, deliberate. I like things where I can see them. She smiled. I still think about how calmly you walked into my office that day. It wasn't calm. It was filtered. I don't think Kristen ever expected you to fight back. I didn't. I just stopped letting her play alone. Monica's eyes narrowed slightly. There's talk of opening a strategic equity seat in Paris. Just talk for now. Noted. She leaned in. You be good at it. I'm good where I am, for now. On Friday, I found the dress again. Not by accident. I'd unpacked the last box, and there it was. Folded beneath the white blazer I wore to my mother's funeral. I held the dress to the light. Still whole, no pulled threads, no fading. I didn't cry, didn't smile, just folded it back with care. New suit? Kaya asked Monday morning. Double quotes. Yes. First day energy? Every day should look like a first day. Do you miss it? I glanced over. The old office. The old version of you. No, I said. She was necessary. But she's done now. That afternoon, I drafted the quote for the spotlight. Power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it listens, plans, and walks forward unshaken. I pressed send. Then I stood, smoothed the sleeves of my jacket, and walked back into the day.